Presented by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley. We'll find them at thehockeyshop.com. It is InGoal Radio, the podcast. Pleased to be with David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley, the co-founders of InGoal Magazine. I'm Darren Millard. We got a lot to get to today. We got Brian Daccord with us today. You are going to be fascinated. Dive right into this conversation with the goalie dad, with the goalie coach, and with the owner of Stop at Goaltending, stopatgoaltending.com. That is in our feature interview presented by Sense Arena. And our gear segment today hangs out at the hockey shop talking about Christmas gifts, top gifts. We're going to go down that path. Woody, how are you? How are you holding up right now with the offense rising around the National Hockey League?
I am okay with it, Darren.
Yeah?
I will, however, take a little bit of issue with the way that save percentage and the decline in save percentage is being presented by a lot of people that are covering the rise of offense around the league. So let's start there. I continue to see reference to the current save percentage in the NHL. I think it's .904, being presented as the lowest in whatever many 15 years, because it's being compared to the year-end save percentage in all those other seasons. To which I would counter, I am not saying that offense is not going up and save percentage inevitably is going to take a hit, although I think chances and the quality are also going up. Like, we're seeing more shots. So I don't think save percentage necessarily has to dip as much as you'd think for this rise in offense to occur. But everybody pointing at the .904 at the quarter pole and comparing it to the end of the season for the last 15 years, like, that just doesn't work, because I've done these stories at the quarter pole before. 2 years ago, it was actually lower. It was .901 at the quarter pole. So traditionally, save percentage is lower in the first quarter of the season, and it rises as the year goes on because teams start to pay more attention defensively, and they're more aware, more coherent as defensive units. This year, don't forget, we've also got 12 new coaches, so new systems in 12 different cities in the offseason. I think that plays a role. That said, I don't think it's going to rise like it has in the past, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, just because it's .904 now doesn't mean it's going to be .904 at the end of the year. It was .901 a couple of years ago at the quarter pole, and I think it ended up around .909, .910. So the curious thing to me is, how much does it rise? And do we see more teams get back to being defensive? Or is this just the new reality where young, skilled players are allowed to just try and get that fourth goal when they're up 3-1 rather than worrying about shutting it down and trying to prevent the other team from coming back? Because to me, that mentality and the amount of players that aren't held accountable when they make mistakes trying to get that fourth goal is as much a part of this rise as anything else. We heard from Barry Trotz just recently. I read an article with him saying the exact same thing. Like, this is largely about a mentality that's allowed to exist among new players. And I'm not complaining. That's just the reality of the game for goalies now. You're going to see more chances, more wide open offense in a league where they finally learned how to score. 41% more chances across the middle of the ice slot line below the hash marks in the last 5 years. Teams are figuring out how to score on goalies, oddly enough, by actually talking to goalies. And that's a part of this as well. But please stop using the quarter pole save percentage like it's the year end.
I agree with you that players are going for the fourth and the fifth goal a little bit more. And I'll add on to it that players, instead of packing up and going home because the game's out of reach and you're never going to be able to come back, are also trying valiantly for the second goal in a 4-1 game or the third goal in a 4-2 game and trying to get back into it and get their cookies. And that's why we've got some more offense.
Well, I mean, in the comeback, we used to see score effects, but it would be shots from the outside. So in other words, a team would be up 4-1 and all of a sudden they give up a ton of shots, but not a ton of quality. Well, now when that team that's up 4-1 is trying to score or 3-1 trying to score the fourth goal, or 4-1 trying to score the fifth goal, that's usually where you have mistakes in the game, when you're pushing for offense and it leads to chances the other way. And again, I just think less teams, and I've talked to goalie coaches about this around the league, fewer teams are settling for those outside shots as okay. Like, they view shots that used to be like, traffic and tips and pass off pads and all those cliches that used to get thrown around. a lot of teams and coaching staffs now view this the way they probably always should have. Those are turnovers. That's all you're doing. Unless you really do have multiple layers of traffic and screens and people crashing the net. For the most part, if you're shooting from the outside, you're just allowing the goalie to either steer it into the netting or control it and get a whistle and control play. Like, it is essentially a turnover. And so as more and more teams forget settling for those shots, but are actively telling players not to take them, to look for other types of offense instead, of course you're going to see save percentage and go down and score and go up, because the quality of chances has never been higher.
Hutch, I want to bring you into this.
It's just so impressed that the NHL teams are not listening to all the fans screaming, shoot, shoot, shoot. No, I mean, I couldn't agree with Woody more. It's reached a point where I actually, I think I might have even mentioned it in today's feature interview. The fact that there's a massive difference now between being able to stop a shot and being able to read the game. And goaltenders at all levels can handle those outside shots, those point shots, the low percentage chances. That's not what defines a great goaltender. Is the ability to read the game and play those more challenging situations, the cross ice plays like Woody talked about there. So yeah, I've been preaching that quietly for a long time, that wasting shots on a goaltender really is a waste. And I love how Woody put it, that it's effectively just a turnover. And who's going to allow a team to just hand the puck over to the other team? But that's almost exactly what you're doing every time you just waste a shot on a goaltender.
So for defense or goalies to respond to the slight spike in goals, well, the last couple of years, it's been a larger one when you put it together because goals have increased. Is that answer going to come on the physical side of goaltending, or do you think it happens on the mental side of goaltending, being able to read the game or being able to adapt and get used to more challenges and being able to be in a high-scoring game and handle that?
Yeah, or tick all of the above on that multiple choice question.
Okay.
But yeah, for sure. I mean, first off, are you mentally able to handle what it is that you're facing right now? I think that's
right.
Can you handle and understand?
Because right now you have to survive.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
And I think we've also at the same time sort of reached this state of mind where if you're not perfect, it's not good enough. You know, like that one extra goal a game is a massive change. So now we have to be able to accept the fact that that's probably going to happen and that there is an opportunity to come back. And mentally, can you really set it aside? It's a bit cliche, right? Next shot, but it means it even more now than ever. So are you mentally prepared to handle what the game is throwing at you now? And the fact that perfection is very difficult to reach. At the same point, I think we are seeing an elevation in that ability to read the game, or the needing of the ability to read the game, because so much is happening in front of you. It's changing, you know, so the book that you're reading is not the same book that you were reading 3, 4, 5 years ago. Have you been able to adapt to that? Also crucially important. And then, yeah, we will adapt physically as we see changes in the game as well. I think I think we should have just had this conversation with Brian Daccord with us, because all these things really came up, didn't they? Him talking about how we're going to have to change the way we approach things so that we can do them a little bit faster than we used to do them. And I think we're seeing more change in the game faster than ever, and it makes it so much more fascinating for everybody.
I was just going to say, this is all perfect segues to the interview with Brian Daccord, because you touch on all of these things. As much as we had him on to talk about the new book he's got out, and I think we should give that a quick plug, How to Be a Goalie. And as good as the book is, the conversation goes well beyond that, and it talks about a lot of these details. And I think that for all the pursuit of speed and holding edges and all the things that you guys get into as we try and adapt to this East-West game, the ability at the NHL level, under the bright lights and spotlight and pressure, to manage the emotions of the wild swings also becomes as big a part of it. Like, not just, you know, what are you doing technically as the game becomes increasingly fast east to west, and how are you managing, you know, that sort of practical side of it, but do you disintegrate when there's 3 goals in a minute and a half? Or can you reset fast enough for the 4th goal? Because the reality is your team may not be out of that game. Especially some of these teams, like, and maybe I'm a little biased because I'm here in Vancouver, where, you know, defense is frankly optional on most nights, but they score a ton at the other end. Like it's almost like watching shinny some nights, right? And we've all been there as goaltenders, like how frustrating shinny can be. There are moments where it's like that. Like I'm watching these games and I'm like, I'd be pissed at my beer league team for that effort defensively. But increasingly around the league, we're seeing teams maybe not want to play that kind of style, but players that do play bigger roles on more teams right now. And so managing the emotions of that, I think, becomes difficult and becomes a part of the job description.
I was just going to say that last point is so good about the importance of players who play those roles inside those organizations, and you have to give them that state.
It wasn't too long ago, Woody would have been on a rant about how useless it is to play shinny hockey in the summer and how damaging it is to a goaltender. Now that we're reading different books, maybe you're going to change your tune, Woody.
Now it's perfect prep, like time and space and options and passes and east-west and east-west again. I don't think, though, that it's a coincidence that the teams that are at the top of the league still have some of that defensive DNA in their game, and the teams that are struggling with it are fighting for playoff position as opposed to being well entrenched within it.
What a primer.
Let's not forget that point that Woody made earlier, that the shooters are learning to adapt to what the goaltenders are doing. And I don't think you can say that enough. You brought up an example when Craig Anderson was on about how JT Miller had thrown a shot onto net, essentially expecting that Anderson would play it the way every other goalie in the league plays it, and he'd get a rebound out of it, and didn't. So we're seeing that the players are adapting. We know anytime we're on the ice at a goalie school that the shooters that are there are using it as an opportunity to learn what we do and how we do it. And I think we're seeing the natural evolution of that. So it just makes the cat and mouse game all the more interesting.
Well, we've been ahead as goalies. I say we, but goalies have been ahead for 2 decades now, right? Like position-specific coaching in the offseason. And for years and years and years, all players did was go into the summer and get bigger, stronger, faster. There was almost no skill work. The amount of guys that went to goalie schools and learned what goalies were doing and worked on specific skills, like it was a short list. Like I remember Zach Parise going to his brother Jordan's goalie school. That was a big deal because he took that step. Now, like not just the pros, but at every level, kids are working with skills coach. Finally, instead of just bigger, stronger, faster, they're actually working on the skills of scoring the same way goalies have worked on their skills for 2 decades now. And inevitably, they're going to catch up.
Organic conversation from the co-founders of InGoal magazine, David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley, which will lead us into our feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena with Brian Daccord in just a little bit. I'm wondering, though, is there any way that we can ban raisies, backhands, screens, or rebounds? Is there any way we can get back to that level to make it easier on us? That silence speaks a lot.
Nope,
yes,
the horse has left the
that.
barn. It's not coming back.
All right.
Yep. You know what, though? Hey, listen, though. But that's the thing. Like, I got all mad because people are using save percentage right now and comparing it to years past. And I do think that's an apples to oranges comparison just because I have the numbers in front of me. And the quarter pole is traditionally a much lower statistic. But I'm not mad about the offense. Like I've always said, we can celebrate goalies more because now you need more spectacular saves.
You
right?
still got to win.
Yeah, 100%. And I do think that, you know, if anything, because there is still a wide discrepancy in how some teams do it and how some teams are approaching this. And frankly, some of it's based on personnel. Some just don't have the horses to do anything other than try and outscore their problems because they can't defend. That's a reality. Again, maybe one I see here in Vancouver a little too close. The need and ability to measure shot quality when comparing some of these goalies and making big, broad statements about the seasons they're having has never been more important in my eyes. And I'll give you an example of a goalie who is out right now but coming back soon. Eric Comrie. I've seen a lot of talk around sort of, you know, just general circles about the Buffalo Sabres and their save percentage and maybe they need to do something in goal. Eric Comrie's expected save percentage when he got hurt was .859. He was outperforming it at 1.3%. Doesn't mean much to anyone, but it's at a level comparable right now to guys like UC Saros, Andrei Vasilevsky, Ilya Samsonov, Like guys who are near the top of the league, both in terms of how they're considered, but also in Samsonov's case, like his raw numbers are in the top 10 in the National Hockey League. But his adjusted numbers, when you account for the quality that he faced compared to Eric Comrie, they're very similar. And so I think this is where these numbers are going to be more important, because I see too many people right now that are just looking and seeing anybody below 900. They're like, oh, that guy's having a tough year. And in small samples with offense on the rise like this, if you're behind a team that's going to give up laterals like crazy, and compared to, you can't compare them to somebody who's not. And I think, this is also, I don't want to say a fault, because it's just a limit within the public numbers. All the public expected save percentage, none of them account for lateral movement. And it's been the biggest difference in goals going up is that east-west passing. And so if you're relying on a formula that doesn't even factor it in, especially in a small sample size, you're just not doing these guys enough justice, enough of a service. And Eric, is a friend of InGoal, longtime supporter, and we love him. So I'm not picking him, out of the pile because of that. It's just that he has the lowest expected save percentage in the National Hockey League. And so people judge the raw numbers, but how he's performing relative to that environment, just fine. Thank you very much. Top 15 in the National Hockey League. And I don't think that gets, the reality is most people don't have that number, so it doesn't get talked about. But people want to throw their goaltending under the bus because it's sub 900.
One other little point here on the increase in goals. Your bad nights now are big. Like it might be 6 goals. It might even be 7 goals. Where in the past, if you had a bad night, you might allow 4 or 5. There's a chance that your bad nights are getting out of control, and that also blows things out of proportion a little bit.
Well, in part because we now we're into tandem roles, so we don't. Yeah. We know you're going to need the other guy probably for another start, so you're not as likely to throw him in, especially when you're traveling on the road. So guys got to eat all those goals. That's a really good point, Darren. Here's one last one for you, because this isn't new. I've had this conversation with goalie coaches for the last 3-4 years. They felt like in the last 3-4 years, your ability to get away with it without your A game is gone. Like I remember Luongo could get away with a B game in his prime and still be okay. Now they tell you, like so many guys have told me this, if you don't have your A game, you're getting torched.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Hutch, I think we're finished with that, but we'll get back at it with Brian Daccord in our feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena, because it does really dovetail beautifully off that discussion that we just had. Let's get over to the Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. And this is a jam-packed time of the year. Not only do you have the new store going, but it's Christmas time, jumping over there right now.
Yeah, busy. There's the new store is great. A lot of people. It's actually becoming a little tough to film the segments because it's so busy, so much activity behind us. But we wanted to sort of give you some ideas. Obviously, the obvious ones, pads, sticks, things like that. They've got you covered at the Hockey Shop, source for sports, thehockeyshop.com. But what about those stocking stuffers? What if you haven't got a big item for your goalie this year, but you want to have something specific to the position under the tree or in that stocking on Christmas morning? Cam has some ideas, and he took us around the store for a tour. Some in the goalie section, some out of the goalie section. Items that will make your goalie happy when he finds them under the tree on Christmas morning. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports, out here at the new location in Langley. We're still trying to figure out, and great suggestion, folks, keep them coming. But we're trying to figure out what to call our little corner of this 34,000 square foot hockey mecca, goalie corner. I still like Goalie Utopia. We're going to stick with that for a while. We're back with Cam in Goalie Utopia, and it's time for Christmas Cam. He's got a magical stocking he's going to pull a whole bunch of items out of for us. Gifts. There's something magical about Christmas and goaltending. I've talked to NHL goalies at every level, and they all remember that one gift that they got. Some guys, it was the gift that let them know it was time to take it serious, whether it was new pads or a mask for some guys, like their first sort of pro level mask. Other guys remember sticks or helmets, so many different things, pads, all kinds of stuff. And where, as much as we love Santa Claus, sometimes Santa needs a little help, and what better place to go for your gift-giving needs than the Hockey Shop, source for sports. Let's start, Cam, with the big ticket items, the ones that are maybe a little more work to wrap, a little more work to hide under the tree, but they have the benefit of being on sale right now. If it's time for new pads for you, whether Hey, and I always say kids. Let's be honest. We're all kids as goalies. Beer leaguers need new gear. They got a bunch of lines on sale right now. Cam,
we got the
Ritual.
Ultrasonic. We've got the 3S. It's derivative series. We have A1.9, the CCM Axis pad. We
Warrior,
also
Ritual,
GT2.
GT2. These are all like 30% off.
Correct.
Some more, some a little less, but all on sale significantly here at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com.
And if you're looking for something a little bit smaller, we've got some junior VE8s at 22+2. I got quite a few of those. So if you're looking for that smaller kid,
that could be a big moment for the kids.
That could be a very big moment, yes.
Those are on sale. You got a whole line of youth gear here as well. If you want the big ticket items, the pads, the gloves, chest protectors, pants, whether it's for a kid or a beer league goalie, it's always nice to get something new. Sometimes, though, we just need to stuff the stocking. Actually, before we get there, sticks, man, Cam, like nothing like getting a stick under the tree. A little bit of a pain in the ass as a parent to wrap it.
Everybody always remembers getting that stick and unwrapping it underneath the tree.
You know what it is, but you don't know what it is. Right?
Exactly.
It's a stick, but what is it? You've got a bunch of new options here. We talked about the Warrior last week in our review. There's the M2 line. There's a whole bunch of new colorways, some really sharp colors, some bright chrome effects on it. Your selection of Bauer right now is almost unparalleled in terms of all the different lines, all the different models, all the different colors that you've got available right now. So if a stick is what you're after, make sure you give them a call. Where can they get you, Cam?
604-589-8299.
Or check them out at thehockeyshop.com. Now, what about some other items? Let's go around the store a little bit. Things that are sort of, stuff a stocking.
Hot topic, hot is those UFA sandals. We got lots of them in stock. We got the white ones. Those are the ones with the Velcro on them. We've got just the standard black. There's also a few of those like Halloween style, like the with little skeleton feet.
These are Bauer UFAs.
Bauer UFA
And they're
sandals.
actually like, they're not just a
sandals.
sandal, they're recovery. They
Yes.
like you actually feel so good on your feet that you feel like you're recovering after a long skate.
Correct. Yeah, kicking your skates off and you're throwing these on, and then that's what you're wearing on the way home.
These aren't just flip-flops. These are recovery sandals. And you
Science on your feet.
science on your feet. Jerseys,
Lots of them.
all kinds. It doesn't matter if you're a Canucks fan and you're in the area in Langley. Nobody has a better selection of both generic and
Reverse retro.
Reverse retro, already logoed up with some of your favorite players. I didn't see any Thatcher Demko or Spencer Martins out there, Cam, but we'll have word with the staff who's logoing those up soon. A lot of Elias Pettersson and Bo Horvat's out there, but also selection from all around the league. I saw pretty much every team represented on the wall. One of the benefits of the new space is you have so much room for all these different products. I saw golf balls, logoed golf balls. Forget stuffing the stocking. You can buy a
Stockings here.
itself with your team logo on it. So all kinds of accessories, both online and in store, to help you stuff that stocking. Doesn't always have to be goalie gear. Sometimes it can be just whatever team your little goalie cheers for or your big goalie cheers for. You can stuff the stocking that way. Accessories, another great way to stuff the stocking. Toe ties.
Lots of them. Elastics. You've got Brian's, CCM. Just got some Bauer ones back in. Pro laces as well. So we've got those options there. Don't forget the Lizard Skins internal glove as well. That's another easy one. And also,
maybe you're not ready to buy a new glove or you're not sure what glove to buy your goalie, but it's getting a little worn out halfway through the season, needs a little extra padding. Shove a Lizard Skin glove in there and you'll be amazed how much more protection he gets on the sort of index finger thumb area where pucks tend to start to hurt as the glove breaks down, and you might get a little more life out of the glove before you have to invest in new.
for sure. One last one, really quick. We already talked about sticks, but why not accessorize your stick, goalie block, and also paddle wedge on sale there as well to pick up. Add them to your list. Another great option. Kevin, I just heard the store open up for the day. I need to make it to the floor and be ready for all these Christmas shoppers.
Santa Cam is back at it. If you need help stuffing your stocking or getting gifts under the tree, Santa hasn't gotten exactly what you need. Hit Cam up and his staff at thehockeyshop.com, or one more time, Cam, the numbers if they have questions on your inventory.
1-800-567-7789 or 604-589-8299, or you can email us too at sales@thehockeyshop.com.
And shipping's been tough lately, so make sure
get your order in now. That's what I can say. Get your order in now.
To make sure that the goalie in your life is happy on Christmas morning. Thank you, Cam.
Thanks, Kevin.
You know what was not brought up in that tour all over the hockey shop is danglers. Like, you can wrap up a dangler in a nice tight package, and you can put it in a little box to make it look different. You can put it in a big box to make it look grandiose, or you can just wrap up the dangler itself and give it to you guys. That's what we should be giving to each other. I'll even take an extra one if it means you two buffoons will put on a dangler.
So every kid can say, "Oh, gee, Dad, just what I wanted."
Thank you. Yes, I'll be the coal giving.
Case closed. Yeah, everybody's getting a dangler this year.
You know what, Darren? I hate to say this, but I'm going to make a case for danglers with an article I've got coming up. Losing a tooth myself has led me down the path of realizing that goalies in the National Hockey League are also missing teeth. I did not think this was something that ailed the goaltending fraternity. I always thought that we were safe from it in the masks. The number of guys I have encountered that have caps or bridges or completely fake teeth because of shots off the mask, in part because that puck hits the bottom of the chin because there's no dangler to deflect it, and the bottom opening of the mask gets driven up into their face. I can't believe how many. So as much as I'm not putting one on because I'm screwed anyways, I already lost a tooth. This will actually support your cause when you like it's significant. I don't think a lot of people realize how significant, and a lot of them you don't even know.
I watched Ben Bishop lose a tooth, or it was probably the cap was knocked off one night in Toronto. I believe Vasilevsky, hasn't he not broken a tooth off during the game? I witnessed that at one point. He left the game, came back, lost a tooth. I may be wrong on that, but I right now am going to say it with confidence that I'm right.
Well, I'm going to have to double check that and add it to the story. Jake Allen, Western Conference Finals, warm-up, pregame skate, wrist shot off the mask, knocked the bottom half off his two front teeth, had to have caps put on and play that night. There's a lot. There's guys, Craig Anderson told me he's lost 3 over the years. Mackenzie Blackwood lost 4, I believe, at once and was a bit of a bloody mess. So, there you go, Darren. So as much as I normally like to pour cold water all over your dango theory, I think having it below would prevent the types of impacts on the chin that tend to cause lost teeth.
It's Secret Santa, but we're all giving each other danglers. And you two maroons are going to wear them, and you're going to be happy about it.
Well, the perfect tie-in there is all I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth. The dangler will mean you don't actually lose them.
I want to ask you this. You, as in your current lives, this is not when you're 12 years old. This is not when you're 25 years old, still playing high level, or in the future, or whatever. This is right now, here in the present. You can ask for anything goaltending related for Christmas. It can be for somebody else, or it can be for you. I want to know, what is your wish from the goaltending gods for Christmas? Hutch.
2 things. One.
Oh, greedy.
Well, okay. Like one
greedy.
I'm greedy. Goalie goal.
Oh,
for sure.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
For who?
Oh, I wish I thought of that.
For my kid.
For your son?
I'm a goalie parent.
Good.
Right? Like, so.
Good.
So, but preferably, and if I can't specify the goalie goal, I just want to see a nice 2-goal lead with 2 minutes left and the other net empties out. That's a good present right there, because we get to enjoy the experience of watching him clean the crease out and do everything you can to find open space to fire a puck. It's entertaining. So yeah, goalie goal would be at the top of my list, and then the other one, because just some ice, just some ice alone with my kids, so that we can get out there and just have a little fun and work together. And if it could be Lake Louise, out in the frozen lake, surrounded by the Rocky Mountains.
Very picturesque.
Yeah, that would be really, really cool. So
he could shoot it to BC and instead of scoring a goal.
He would try. So yeah, just because there's nothing, as a goalie dad, there's nothing like time with your kid on the ice. So
Woody?
Well, my kids don't play goal or hockey, so I'm going selfish here.
Yeah.
And obviously the InGoal garage is loaded with gear, so it's not like I need something under the tree. Although I got to say, make sure, folks, you check out our annual Christmas Day special, where we sort of list all the goalies we've talked to over the years and the significant present in their lives that played a role. I got a few more I want to add to it this year, like, because Christmas and goaltending go hand in hand, right? Like, we've all had a gift, if we were goalies as kids, that was under the tree, that either was, you didn't take off and you slept with that night, pads or a glove or a mask, or it played a role in sort of your arrival, right? Like your goalie was fun, but now all of a sudden you were taking another step into a competitive team, so you got like a custom mask or some type of, like, every goalie has that memory. So there is a significant tie-in. But I'm not wanting for gear, thanks to InGoal. I don't have kids, so I'm going with hip surgery.
You have kids.
Well, I don't. I don't have kids that are goalies, so they don't even count.
Take two.
I can tell they don't listen to this.
I know they don't listen to this. I'm going hip surgery.
What?
I'm going hip surgery.
Are you going to whine that your hips hurt now?
No, I've already been told I need it.
Are you doing surgery or hip replacement?
No, see, here's the thing. And that's why I'm going hip surgery. In Canada, for the most part, we don't do the hip surgery that you see most of the goalies get. And so before my last back surgery, I had what they call an MRA, where they take they use the X-ray to guide the dye into the hip, and then they take a look at the hip because they thought that was causing the pain. And it turned out to be a disc ruptured that they had to fix and yada, yada, yada. But in the process of having that MRA, I learned how badly damaged my left hip was and that it needed surgery. Unfortunately, here in Canada, we don't do it. We just wait till it's deteriorated to the point where it has to be replaced. And so I've been told that that is in my future. So my wish for Christmas would be to actually be able to go get hip surgery so that I don't have to have it replaced later. It boggles my mind a little bit that that's the approach up here. It's like, no, we're just going to wait till it gets so bad that we have to replace it and you have a fake hip rather than actually repairing it, which you can do, just not in Canada. So Santa, if you're feeling nice, get Woody hip surgery.
You know what I had last week was the blood spinning treatment, the PRP, where they draw your blood, they put it in, they spin it around, and then they put it back in. Because I also need my hip replaced, my left hip, and I'm trying to hold off doing that. And I feel better, and it's going to take a couple of different sessions, but I do feel better. And I'm a wimp, and I did it. So
platelet-rich plasma, PRP. I've had that in my neck. Yeah,
really? You had it in your neck? Oh my goodness! I couldn't.
It actually helps tighten up some things when is getting concussion symptoms far too easily because things have gotten a little loose.
Well, I'm going for with a new mask, custom painted with VGK. Okay, that's what I'm going for. You guys were very rich and deep and thoughtful and very out there. I'm just going straight for the ripping open the package.
I think if there was a book on who's most likely to get their wish this year, Darren, you're leading the pack by a long shot.
Well, yeah, you're going to Lake Louise and Skippy's having surgery.
Good luck.
I was going big. I told you I was going selfish and I was going big.
That's really good. That's a good point. I can feel comfortable that I'm leading the pack right now.
Yeah,
Darren went with like as expensive and as nice as a new mask fully painted is. That's the small ticket item on our. David's got a trip, and have you seen what it costs to stay in a hospital for a week post surgery? Mine's the biggest ticket of them all for sure.
That's so good. I love it. We've got our feature interview brought to you by Sensorina coming up as we talk about goaltending on InGoal Radio, the podcast, brought to you by the Hockey Shop, source for sports story, thehockeyshop.com. Brian Daccord is with us here today, and he's a fascinating individual. I love Brian because he's written so many books, but Brian mentions in this conversation, books are tough these days. Like, remember Harvey Pennock's book? You're a golfer, Woody? The Little Red Book.
Little Red Book,
Harvey,
yeah.
Like, it's still great today. Goaltending books, Hutch, they're tough to stand the test of time, aren't they?
Well, weren't we just saying that the game is accelerating so quickly, the process of change is accelerating so quickly that to try and put it all down in a book and tell somebody how to play the position, right? Yeah, like good luck. And then how do you write a book on how to read the game? Spoiler, it's not a book, it's a website, and Brian tells you to go check out InGoal Mag to learn how to read the game. But so what's there? Well, I don't know. It's tough, but Brian certainly found a way to do it because this is the second book in 2 years, and there's another one coming next year, as he talks about in the interview as well. But it's certainly not going to be one about technique, and until the game stabilizes a little bit, because it's a tough thing to write about right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fascinating because it changes almost like every month and a half. There's something new going on about the position and how a certain goaltender plays that. And you'll hear in the conversation, even Brian watching highlights on a nightly basis, will see something go, "Oh, that's different." And it's really fun to hear somebody admit that too.
Yeah, it's
and
almost like you need to check out a website if you want to follow what's happening with
Yeah.
technique and not a book, because it's so easy to
How
change.
do you do that? Well, we had the clip last week, right? Brian saying like those pro rates
Mhm.
that what he does. There are the evolution of goaltending is tied up all in that.
I think we're all saying the same thing. Go
Yeah.
get yourself a subscription to InGoalMag.com. And if you haven't, talk about gift ideas, as good as Cam's ideas were, he's given up on actually being a good goalie, so he doesn't have a subscription. Nobody's gifting it to him, but you can gift it to the goalie in your life. InGoalMag.com. You'll get to see all these pro reads. Yeah, I think that's what we're all saying.
And
Go get
Sense Arena. There's that aspect of it too, right?
Because then you can practice all these things without actually needing to go on the ice.
Yes.
I wonder
Sense Arena is the gift that gives to you on a Thursday night at 9:00 without leaving the house.
It is, but I'm going to ask our good friend Bob Tativa, the founder of Sense Arena, now that you can use an NHL practice rink as your background while you're working in Sense Arena, maybe he could throw Lake Louise in there for me, and then I could have my Christmas wish for a little bit less than the cost of hip replacement surgery. No, guys, Sense Arena, who sponsors the feature interview every week, has another great deal for Christmas time. And essentially, we talked about their Black Friday deal not too long ago. They've extended that out through the Christmas season. If you would like to get into Sense Arena, or your son or your daughter, now is the time. There is a huge savings of about almost $500, depending on your currency that you're working in. Right now, about 35%. If you go and grab Sense Arena, and you will get the free Quest 2 headset to go with it, and the controllers and the sleeves to attach it to your goalie gear or your goalie gloves. And then you get into Sense Arena as well for a full year. So there's no better time to get into Sense Arena. It is the best off-ice training tool for goaltenders. And we strongly suggest everybody gives it a go. If you get your order in today, maybe it'll be there in time for Christmas. And if not, you can be one of those folks that leaves a gift certificate under the tree, just saying the gift is coming, much like the gift certificate for an InGoal gift membership as well.
Awesome stuff. There's lots of giving going on, including this conversation with Brian Daccord. And what I love about this interview is Hutch and Brian are having a conversation, and formally starting the interview is difficult to do with Brian because the discussion just occurs organically. So instead of like, okay, I'm going to hit record and away we go, we pick it up because it starts immediately the way it occurs. So there's not this big fancy woody intro to it because quite frankly, that's hard with Brian. But we wanted to make sure that we brought you all of Brian's insight to the position. So here is Brian Daccord, the owner of Stop It Goaltending, an author, a father, a goaltending coach, goalie father, and David Hutchison, an author, a father of goaltending, and well, you write on the website, right? Yeah, absolutely. So two guys just hanging out, talking goaltending on InGoal Radio, the podcast. This is our feature interview presented by Sense Arena.
I'm at the end of the road here. Like, I'm 58. Like, I'm starting to wind down. I want to get as much out as possible. You know what I mean? I've been doing this for a long time. I want to try to get it out. So,
well, the game may not let you stop. There's so much to do.
There is. It's never ending. I don't know. Like, there was a save that Spencer Knight made the other day. Went to his post. He bumped off his post. He pushes out. He makes the second save. Pushes out on it. Uses what I call a J hook. Makes a long bot. Like, the skating was. It was like really, really high end, and just the mechanics of it, a big change from what you normally would do.
Okay,
and I'm like, it never stops. Like, this game never stops.
Well, I mean, I was going to say that the idea that the book that you've done this time is not a book on technique. And you've done it, and some other people have done it too, but it would be really hard to do that these days.
I don't know if you can write it. I don't know if you can, because you're going to be outdated quickly, and you're going to sit there going, I can't believe this is what I said in my book. because now I teach completely different.
Right.
But that's the reality of it.
And it almost feels like the pace of change is accelerating in the last few years.
Yeah, the game's changing. And, so actually I'm on the ice with Andrew Raycroft every day. And we were like, do we have to modify some techniques because they take too long? Do we have to try to take some things that we've done in the past and find a quicker way to do them?
Mm-hmm. Just because the game's so fast.
It's so freaking fast.
Yeah.
It's so fast. So, yeah, that's what we were talking about today.
Yeah, you definitely see people starting to speed up their movements more in the last few years, I think. That feels like a trend to me. What do you think are some of the biggest trends in goaltending in the last couple of years?
Well, it's like, who was your guest there? I think it was 2 podcasts ago, and it was all about narrow base.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what? Like, that's a big one.
Absolutely.
Just like the big emphasis on the narrow base, and once again, you talk about this narrow base, and then you got these Russians playing 8 feet wide. Like, so, like there's no perfect way, but I think that's, we're back to staying on our edges. We're holding our feet longer. We're patience. And so I will tell you, like, I'm in all these conversations and they always end up the same way. It all comes down to how you read the play.
It does. It does. And that comes up so often. And we ask just about every NHL goaltender on the show, how do you learn how to read the play? And I've never heard the perfect answer. What would you add to that discussion? How do you learn how to read a play?
Well, not blowing smoke, but InGoal Magazine, that's what you guys are doing.
Oh, thanks.
No, but honestly, like this is what your pro reads.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is how the game is read. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to get enough reps playing. So you've got to watch. And you've got to watch. I did a thing the other day and I gave a goalie hack, and my goalie hack was go to NHL.com, and in 2.5 minutes, you'll see every goal scored from the night before. So all of last night's goal, all of Sunday night's goals, all of Monday night's goals, that if you're going to do nothing else and you don't have time to watch the 3-minute game recaps, which is basically saves and goals.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have time for that, you can watch every goal in the NHL every night in about 2 minutes. It's flying. You get to see every goalie. So that's your goalie hack. That's your quick. I'm going to see everybody that played last night to keep up with things, keep on top, watch play after play after play develop, and see how these goals are scored.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes you think. So I think that you guys are doing a tremendous service to goaltenders.
Well, thank you.
And giving them the opportunity to not only see a play on video, but listen to someone break it down.
We hear, certainly in Canada, they talk a lot about long-term athlete development models, and I'm sure in other countries as well. I'm just the one I'm most familiar with. And one of the things that comes up a lot is we need to change that ratio of practice to games so that there's so many more practice opportunities for kids and reduce the amount of gameplay. I often wonder if it's almost the opposite for a goaltender, because can you learn to read the game in the context of a practice, or at least a practice as they're being traditionally run for hockey teams these days?
Wow. To me, that's a loaded question, because I have my answer. My answer is you got to play games.
Yeah.
So, playing goaltender is about reading the play. It's about pattern recognition. And the more you see the patterns, the quicker you're going to be able to respond to, or anticipate what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say, we want to make goaltending. We want you to play like you're driving a car. You got in your car today. You just, you don't have to think about, how do you turn the car on?
Yeah.
How do I turn left? How do I turn right? No, you just drive. We need to play goal like that. And, you just need the reps. And then you get all the time. Like I've had people say to me, well, why don't we just train at stopping? Why don't we just train all the time? Get all this training in, because, he only gets 20 shots in a game or 25 shots in a game or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need those 25 shots because those 25 shots have consequences. You learn when you have consequence.
Yeah.
You learn a lot quicker when there's consequences. When there's no consequence in practice, there's no consequences. Because you give up on a goal in practice, guess what? The coach is happy. This guy's just scored a goal. Great. But from our end, I always look at when you go golfing. Do you golf at all?
Very badly, but yes, I do.
Yeah, me too. All right. So you go golf and I'll take Andover Country Club, which is down the road from me. And you go to Andover Country Club and you go hit off the first tee.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got the guys you're playing with, you've got the starter, you got the people coming off the 18th, and you have all the people hanging around the clubhouse who have just played or sitting out on the patio, right? So now all of a sudden you're hitting your first ball and there's 20, 30 people watching you swing.
You're not on the range anymore.
No. And now you go from there. Now you go to the second, you go up the hill, you go to the second tee. It's you and your buddies. You want to get more reps on the first tee. That's what's going to make you better.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to do it on the first tee, not being able to do it on the second to the 18th. So you need those games. And the more that you're able to have a consequence to your actions, the more that you're able to see and read the play, see the patterns develop, I think you're much better off. So I think you got to play. And it's like anything, you need balance in life.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to balance that. You can't just play and no training. You have to find that right mix, that right combination. But I think that if you look at games played is your single best determinant of whether you can project a goalie to be successful in the future. Not save percentage, not goals against average. It's games played.
Yeah, we've only got so much control over that, how much an individual can play and where they can play, and that there's only so many opportunities. But if you could design a program for a young goaltender perfectly, what sort of elements would you...
I'll disagree with you on that one.
Okay.
So you have a little bit more control because of where hockey's at now, right?
Okay.
So let's take here in New England, you play for a prep school.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not the starter. So you get 8 games that year. Oh, it's out of your control, right? Oh, it's out of my control. I only got 8 games out of the 30 games we played.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? In New England, there's a spring tournament every weekend, like at multiple rinks, all summer long. If you're not getting your game reps in the season, it's still in your control because you can sign up for those tournaments and they're begging for goalies, right? So you can sign up for, there's so many spring and summer tournaments that you can control your games played. So therefore, if you're not getting your games played during the regular season, it's up to you. It's in your control. Get on some teams. And then if you are getting your games, then you don't have to sign up and do all this stuff in the off season. But I do believe that it is a little bit more in your control than it used to be because of the spring summer tournament circuit.
An excellent suggestion. And it sort of sounds like, depending on your situation, you need to take control of your career and take control of your game and find the best way. Because I assume you would probably tell that youngster who's only getting 8 games in his regular season, well, that's the time maybe you maximize the private training,
or you take your Spencer Knight.
Yeah.
Spencer Knight played a ton of games.
Yeah.
He took time off though, right? So he took time off. He would play a ton of these games, but he'd take time off. He'd get his rest. He wasn't at goalie school, for 3 months straight because he was playing so many games.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, you have to take your situation and then figure out, okay,
right,
what do I need? And then you go get it. And that's the other thing. Like I talked to a parent the other night and actually yesterday, and they were asking about playing for one team or another and based on the goalie coaching. And I said, quite frankly, I don't take the goalie coach or what the organization, this is youth hockey, I don't take what the organization is providing to be my determinant of whether I'm going to pick a team. There's a lot of other factors that I'm going to put ahead of that because goalie training is something you can control. It is out there for you if you want to go get it. Here in New England, there's a ton of goalie guys, right?
Sure.
And so therefore, if the organization is the right fit because of 5 different reasons, but, they only give goalie training every Sunday night at 5:00 in a clinic style. That's not what we want. Well, that shouldn't inhibit you from playing for that team, because if you want the private one-on-ones, go get the private one-on-ones. They're not going to pay for it anyway. So I think that we've got to look at it and say, what can we control? And your game time is something, because of today's culture and environment in hockey, you can go control that to some degree, and you can control your training.
And if you're putting that game program together for a young goaltender, what are the factors that you look at in sort of choosing the right situation? I often think about the analogy of the boxer as they bring them up through their career, and they want to make sure they have just enough challenge, but not so much that the confidence gets beat down. Like, how does that work with a goaltender in developing their game to you? How would you choose teams?
First off, you got to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's a lot of talk here about only goalie, being the only goalie,
mm-hmm. and
then having 2 goalies on a team. I think you can argue both ways. My kids have got obviously 2 goalies
yep.
that I raised, and they always played with someone, and they're still like best buds after all these years. They're still close to their old goalie partners. And I think there's a lot of value to having someone that lives in goalie world on your team. When you're the only person that's living in goalie world, it can be challenging sometimes. So I think that's good to have someone that lives on your island. And at the same time, I think competition's good. I think learning from other people, I think pushing and competing is just a huge factor in terms of whether you're going to make it as a goaltender. So I think there's a lot of value. And then for kids that are the only goalie on the team, I think that's great too. They're going to get a ton of games.
For sure.
So, but they're going to miss a little bit on something else. But, once again, you go back and forth. I am probably not with the norm in this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like when youth goalies play full games. If you've got 2 goalies, I will argue all day that both goalies should play. And my feeling is, I personally am not taking my 12-year-old to a sporting event he's not going to play in. I'm just not going to do it.
Sometimes a very long commute to that game.
Absolutely. I'm not going to leave North Andover, Mass, and drive to Foxborough and for an hour and 10 minutes to watch my kid sit on a bench and drive home again. And we've put 5 hours into him sitting there watching a game. So you'll have people that argue with me and they'll say, yeah, well, it's better for them to play the full game. I'm like, I couldn't care less. Like, you can argue the benefits of it. I'm not taking my kid. And so when my guys were growing up, every team they played for, they went to a game they played.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way, or they weren't going to play on that team. Just the way it was. That's just my belief, right?
Yeah, I've seen it both ways with mine.
Yes, it doesn't mean it's right. I'm not saying I'm right. That's just what I think. And
we had Alex Ald on one time, and he was coaching a local youth team, a goalie coach, and he actually was doing it every 10 minutes he was swapping goaltenders.
Switch them up?
Yeah, because his belief was, look, they're the only player on the ice, especially if they play a full game, that gets no in-game coaching. So switch it up after 10 minutes, have a little chat on the bench, and then back in you go, and we'll do the same thing with the next guy. I think it's a really interesting model especially for a young goaltender.
Hutch, what you brought up right there is huge. Okay, so you think about it, and this is part of why I did my books, right? Mm-hmm. So you think about it. A goalie goes in, plays a game, let's say walks into the rink, warms up, plays a game, leaves. It's quite possible they have no interaction with an adult.
Yep.
No interaction with a parent, a goalie, and who's providing at 12, 14, 15, who's providing goalie coaching that's actually going to break down games and give them what they need in terms of learning how to play the game in a game environment. Players get it every time they come back to the bench, right?
Mm-hmm.
They make a mistake or something happens. They get back. The coach gets down there, takes out the whiteboard on one knee, drawing the play out for the player. But a goalie may not hear from anybody. And that's why the whole thing about don't car coach your kid.
Yeah.
You throw that out the window.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. If you know what you're talking about. Yeah. If you're a goalie parent, you got to learn a little bit about the position, and you've got to understand how to talk to your kid after a game and be able to go through scenarios and whether you're providing input or not, letting your daughter or your son talk through it, right? So that they're digesting and getting something out of the game. Because the last thing you want to do is play a game and then you walk out of there and, okay, all the lessons that are learned every game, if you don't talk about them or communicate or think about them, then they're more or less lost. So that's why I love your guests when they talk about journaling.
Yes. Yeah.
Because now you play a game. Now you write down, I got to do this. Oh, I got caught on that one. I got to remember to do this. Now you're writing it down. That's going to do a lot for your attention.
It definitely gets imprinted better when you write it down. And the thing I like about it is, and then you don't lie there awake all night running the game through your head over and over. You can get it out on a piece of paper and it's not gone, but it's filed away.
Well, that's why I did SIG Game Day, my app. It's exactly that reason. You get it after the game. You don't have to lie awake thinking about it. You know how many shots you had, what kind of caliber, what your goal expectancy was supposed. Like, it takes that away. People won't understand. Goaltending, it's a different sport. It's a whole different mental challenge than the other players have. And the pregame anxiety, the postgame, how hard it is to wind down after a game. And when you're playing back-to-back nights, that first night, like you're wound up after the game. There's no like going home. I leave BU. I go home at night. Like, I don't go to bed. I didn't even play and I'm wound up. I'm gonna hang out. I'm gonna watch games on TV. Like, that's just the way it is, right? So like you're always, it's a whole different component or a whole different way of looking at it from a goalie's, I say goalie world all the time. When you live in goalie world, it's a different world.
Why it is good to have a good partner if you can.
Yes.
Or somebody can bounce it off.
Or a parent that at least a parent that will listen, right? And let you talk things through.
It's funny you talk about the mental approach, and we were discussing golf there a little bit, and we've often said that there are incredible parallels between golf and goaltending. I hadn't thought of the first tee so much, Brian, but just that approach to the game, being in your head so much, and the fact that you can't get better by trying harder. In fact, it sort of sends you the other direction, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Who was the guest you just had that talked about golfing in the summertime that they hadn't golfed before? It was an InGoal guest, and
you're putting me on the spot.
It's a recent one, and they were talking about, and then Woody was like, Woody was like, it's that without that focus that you need in golf over a long period of time.
Yes.
And it's the same thing as a goaltender. You need to focus over a long period of time.
I think that was one of the toughest things for my son growing up when he moved into bantam hockey, and all of a sudden there were 20-minute periods with floods in between each period. And that mental thing is
everything. When the kids go junior, you're 100% right. When the kids go junior and those periods are longer, and then you have that time in between, there's a big change. And I remember my son Joey when he was playing for Muskegon. They start off the year, so he's there. They must have had 4 or 5 opening nights. They had their own, and they just happened to hit opening nights. And that was the whole gong show before the game, right? The national anthem, and then presenting this. And so you warm up, and a half hour later, you're getting your first shot. That's a mental test right there.
Absolutely.
To be able to handle that and then be ready when it's your time to actually start the game.
Yeah. So he didn't get that until junior.
He didn't get that till junior.
We were lucky out here. It started in sort of age 13.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. So you always think about all the experiences that the kids go through that we as goalies gone through that you have to draw on those experiences. So there's Joey goes in, he's just happens to get hammered with all these opening nights.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got to figure out how to be ready when the game starts. So he signs after his junior year for Arizona, and a few nights later he's playing for Buffalo. It's for Ottawa versus Buffalo in Buffalo. And guess what? It's Jack Eichel bobblehead night. It's their last game of the year. It's the last game of the season. They do award and presentations and the national anthem, the Canadian anthem, the American anthem, and now you're right back in it. And it's great. So he's sitting there and it's taking forever. And he says to himself, I'm so proud of this as a goalie parent, goalie coach.
Mm-hmm.
He says to himself, no one gives a crap how long this pregame was. When they drop the puck, no one gives a crap that I have been standing around here for 30 minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
That's experience. And that's why as goalies, you need to go through a whole bunch of experiences to be able to then perform at the highest level.
I always frame it when I'm working with a youngster who's worried about something like that as this is absolutely to your advantage. And then they look at me kind of shocked, like, what do you mean it's to my advantage? Well, because you know how the guy at the other end of the rink is feeling right now and how much it's bothering him, but you know it's not bothering you, so you got one up on him. Oh, yeah, I do. Like how we frame things mentally, I think is incredibly important.
Without a doubt. And it never changes too, right? So you look at that game the other day. So Seattle, LA, 9-8.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you think about it. You're in a 5-5 game. All of a sudden, you're in an 8-8 game. Nothing's changed. What do you got to do? You got to stop the next puck.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's 8-8, 5-5, or 0-0. It's still the mindset, the training has still got to be, all I got to do is stop the next shot. That's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter if we're winning 8-0, losing 8-0, tied 8-8, tied but it takes time. It takes time to train your mind to think that way.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to go through adversity and be able to be in games and be sitting there and you're Minnesota beating Dallas 5-1 with 13 minutes left in the game. And next thing you know, it's tied up and you're in a shootout and
right.
You've got to stop the next, you've got to, that is a mental test. And the experiences that you get, that's going to lead you to a position where you're going to be able to frame it. It's all about how we frame things, right? How you're going to frame the situation and be able to perform.
Which is another positive spin you can put on a challenging game like 8-8, because that's just another experience you can put in your toolkit for later on down the road.
Absolutely. And you want those.
Mm-hmm.
You actually, that's for a coach, a parent, a kid, like every time you think you're in one of those gong show games, like, oh, okay, great. I survived it. I lived to play another day, and that's perfect.
Well, we're getting into all these things that are about the mental approach to the game and building those experiences. Tell me about the new book that you've created, because I think we're going down that road right now.
It's what we're talking about is exactly what the book's about. It's called How to Be a Goalie. So last year I came out with How to Be a Goalie Parent.
Mm-hmm.
And I had so many parents tell me that they were taking pictures of pages and sending them to their kids and highlighting pages and putting the book in front of them and saying, read this highlighted chapter or whatever. So this it's not a technical book. It's not about how to stop one or break away. It's how to prepare, how to think about the game in a way that you'll be able to enjoy the game more, be able to learn more and be able to grow more. That's basically what it's about. It's not about, whether you should use an RVH or Panda. Mm-hmm. It's about the game of goaltending. It's about goalie world. It's about understanding the things that you need to know to be a goalie, because, when right off the bat, I talk about as a goalie coach and being, in the NHL and AHL and college and the whole thing. I've been in hundreds of locker rooms, coaches' offices, where the coach says, well, he doesn't understand how to be a pro. He doesn't understand what it means to be a goalie, right? You know how many times I've heard that? He doesn't understand. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to explain it. I'm going to explain it. This is how you deal with a bad goal. This is how you deal with your coach. This is the idea surrounding he doesn't understand. So it was funny. I was coaching junior hockey and I was the head coach. This is way back when. And I made a rule, and it was a coach's rule in the coach's room. If you said something about a player in the coach's room, but you never told the player that, you had to stop, go to the locker room, grab the player, and tell him what you were saying in the coach's room. Because what help does it do to the player when you sit in the coach's room and you say, oh, he's not working. He hasn't worked hard on the back check for the last month. Okay, fine. Go tell him, Johnny, you haven't worked hard on the back check for the last month. So if you sit in the coach's room and say, oh, the goalie, he doesn't understand. Well, okay, let's go tell him. Let's explain. So that's how the book starts. And the great thing is I've got messages from former goalies, Brian Boucher and Curtis McElhenney and Scott Clemenson, and some of the most successful women goalies we've had, Molly Schaus and Brianna McLaughlin. And it was so nice. They donated or contributed a message to future goalies. And stuff like Scott Clemenson was habits supersede motivation. Love it, right? Mm-hmm. You can't always be
That sounds motivated. Like a t-shirt.
Yeah. You can't always be, your habits have to supersede the motivation. Bree was talking about, you gotta be able to laugh at yourself as a goalie. You can't be too serious. You gotta find that mix. Mac, he got cut from every Bantam AAA team he tried out for.
And he kept going.
So there's so many good messages from former successful goalies, and they didn't have easy roads. Everything, they didn't put on golden skates when they were 8 years old, and everything was handed to them, and they never had bad nights and controversy and challenges. They went through it. So it was so nice for them to contribute to the book. So you get through a chapter and then you read a message, and it's really nice. I'm really grateful for everybody that contributed to the book to make it special like that.
Sounds like something that should be on every Christmas list for the goalie in your life, along with, of course, an InGoal Premium membership, so you can learn how to read the game.
Absolutely.
I think maybe the next book then, Brian, would be How to Be a Head Coach of a Goalie. No,
you're actually on the right path.
Yeah.
How to coach goalies, but not for goalie coaches, right? It is a way to look at how to coach you don't have to know what the difference between a VH and an RVH is. But here's a book that's going to help you deal with the goalies so that you're providing them more of what they need as opposed to looking at it from your perspective.
I think there would be a lot of goalie parents purchasing that book as a gift.
For the coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the coaches. Coach, please read this.
Okay, what's the first chapter going to be when you write that book? What's the most important tip you want to pass on to head coaches today or coaches?
Like anything, any relationship, where does every relationship start and end? It starts and ends with the communication. And that's the first issue, is that there's not enough communication between the coach and the goaltender in terms of who's playing, how they're going to work this, what's going to happen in tournaments, how's playing time going to get divided, what's practice going to be like, what do you like in practice, there's a million different things you need to communicate on that would make the experience better for both the coach and the goalie. So that's communication is chapter 1 right there.
There you go. That's perfect. Well, Brian, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time with us today. It's nice to chit-chat goaltending for half an hour and where the game is going, and it's great to learn a little bit more about the new book. I think people could get their goaltending Christmas shopping done if they stop at Goaltending and looked up Brian Daccord on Amazon, because you've got something for everybody between the app and then the how to be a goalie parent and how to be a goalie. And let's not forget Sense Arena, who you're involved with very deeply as well. You are working very hard to make goaltending better for everybody out there. And on behalf of the whole goalie union, thank you.
I appreciate everything you guys do. You mentioned Sense Arena, and wait for it, you got the NHL players coming soon. So there's a big coming tease. In a blank. It's coming in a minute where you're going to be, you guys have talked a lot about, you had Abby talking about reading releases, reading shots, reading pucks off the stick. Devin Levi, he does sessions. He just sits on a couch, literally sits on a couch and watches releases, watching the knees, watching the hands, watching the shoulders. Wait till you see this. You're going to have NHL shooters coming down, shooting. You'll be able to read the release, see how they shoot the puck. You're going to learn so much without even stopping a puck. You're going to learn so much from just watching the release and getting that experience.
Can't wait. Do we know when it's coming?
Like fast.
Like really fast. Ooh, it's going to be awesome.
I don't want to go out there because I don't want to get dope slapped.
Yeah, there you go.
But really fast.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Brian, thanks again.
Okay, thank you so much.
That was smooth. When Brian brought up the idea of watching all the video that Woody does with goaltenders is so accurate. But when somebody like Brian sees the value in it, doesn't it just warm your heart, but it also gives validation to what you've been able to do, Woody.
Yeah, no, and hey, it's not just me. I'm the one that maybe gets to have these conversations, but it was an idea that we had a while ago, Hutch and I, that I think has been a big driver for, for InGoal Mag and the premium subscription. The idea that you get something new every week from some of the best goalies in the game, breaking down the game, and we hope to, we're going to keep bringing them to you. It's a bit challenging sometimes to get these guys, the format and the amount of time it takes, but I want to make sure that we thank the NHL goalies as well for taking part of this. They've been really generous with their time over the years to allow us to have these sit down sessions and to go over these videos, and none of it happens without them. So thanks to all the guys that do it. We hope to bring you some exciting new ones in the new year and continue rolling it out, because it's nice to see. I think that's why goalies are willing to do it for the most part, because they understand that it's something that helps young goalies. And I've had more than a few express to me they wish there was something like this when they were young and coming up and learning to play the position. So thanks to everyone for taking part, and thanks for those who enjoy it, and thanks, Brian, for the kind words, and the rest of you that don't have a subscription, go buy one, because it helps us keep them coming.
How do people get subscriptions, Hutch?
InGoalMag.com. Very clear tag right up at the top, gift memberships available. Click on there, and you got a couple of different things you can do. It'll take you straight to the gift subscription form if you'd like, if you know that's what you want for the goalie in your life. Very simple to fill out the form there. It includes a message that will get emailed to them on the day of your choosing, like the 25th of December, but it doesn't have to be. And after you submit that and the order goes through, then everything happens sort of automatically, but you'll be taken to a page where you can also download a PDF gift certificate. There's several available there with different NHL goalies on them, so that you could print them out and put them in a stocking, under a tree, however you might like to do it. If you're not sure, if you are somebody who wants to know a little bit more about InGoal before you make that purchase, there's also a link on the subscription page and the gift subscription page where you can go and find out more about InGoal. And we've redone the page that tells you all about what InGoal is. And there you will find things like as Woody just mentioned, Elvis Merzlikins talking about how when he was a young kid, he would have spent all day and all night on InGoal learning. You can scan down that page a little bit, and there are about 10 different InGoal articles that have been linked and unlocked there. So if you want to know what it's all about before you decide to make a purchase, you can do that. Everything's been simplified for you, but really all you have to do, go to ingoalmag.com, click on gift subscriptions, fill out that form. It takes about 3 minutes, and the gift will be delivered for you. Thank you.
That pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? Hey, we've got one, maybe we might squeeze another episode in before Christmas, but everybody's flying all over the place trying to knock things down. So for sure, one more episode before Christmas, we'll be able to talk to everybody. And then leading into the holidays, we'll see what we can do with a bonus episode.
You know what's coming up, boys?
What?
Episode 200.
Ooh.
We're getting there. And we got a special guest for that one. Somebody who doesn't normally do podcasts, but he does ours.
Just after Christmas.
Really? Who is that?
He's in the Hall of Fame.
It's a goalie, right?
Last I checked, although he's diversified since going into the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
But he played goal, right?
He did.
Got a connection to the position.
Yeah, more recently he was a pretty good sniper as a forward, though, too.
Oh, well, we'll keep that in mind. And has he been on InGoal before?
Once.
Because we've almost done 200
the
episodes.
only other podcast he's done is
Really?
our other one.
Is that right?
It's true.
Oh, well, now I've got to do some deep research into this.
We're special. We really are special.
We are. We're very special. Hey, thanks for this, you guys. Love the conversation off the top. That was so cool about the mental part of it, the physical part of it, and goals being up and being able to handle it. And there's the aspect of hockey's more entertaining when there's some goals. So it's not a bad thing. You still got to win your game, whether it's 6-4 or 4-2. And if we embrace that, we can really take the game to another level.
Just an opportunity to make more big dramatic saves.
You got that right. On behalf of David Hutchison, Kevin Woodley, Cam over at the Hockey Shop, and Brian Daccord, thanks for listening to InGoal Radio, the podcast.